and welcome back to V-Road, CCTCG's weekly Vanguard podcast. I'm Cole.
I'm Trey.
I'm Jared.
Hi, I'm Brett.
Yeah, it'll be a little chaotic as our first all co-hosts conjoined in one episode, but that's because today I had the idea of discussing Vanguard hot takes, and I think it's not about like if we like disagree or agree on them. It's mostly just it's just a bit more of like a miscellaneous episode of like kind of random stuff that we just have like fleeting thoughts about the game. And yeah, we don't necessarily have to like agree with each other on these or disagree with each other on these. I have a feeling a decent bit of mine I think we'll just all agree with, but I have no idea what you guys have. So let's just start in order here. So my first one was actually one that isn't mine, but I felt was kind of interesting. I don't remember where it was, but somebody had a sentiment of it was when the new Liel was shown off and she has like her set order token, and it's like, there's a deck with a set order. Should it be like it doesn't need to exist in dark states or whatever? And I just felt like that was like a really weird thing to think about any one nation. Like it needs to do a certain thing or make sure it can't do other things or something like that. So I don't know how we feel about that.
I disagree with that. I think every nation should have a little bit of everything and a lot of things like going about it. Like right now there's a deck in every nation that uses set orders. Like, yeah, that's primarily a Brand Gate thing, primarily. But also, why not throw it into other decks and do different things with them? Like, you know, it doesn't feel right to lock specific things to certain things. There are little niches, but I don't know, things like that.
Yeah, just like card types and like game actions that are just like countercharge, soul charge should be locked out of decks, not like whole nations. So like if a deck's built around doing something, like yes, there could be a Dragon Empire deck that countercharges, but only like give it to that deck because, you know, the nation's balanced around that. But you can't just say, oh, Dragon Empire doesn't countercharge, so it never gets a countercharge card at all.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's okay to have a splash of stuff in different nations as long as it's not like the overwhelming factor of a nation is taken away, like the identity of it.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I don't think Maelstrom's Judgment Maelstrom's making Brand Gate not look like a nation anymore.
Well, I think a good example is like Rezile can call stuff from drop, and that's not really a thing that Keter does, and that's more of a thing that like Stoichea does on the whole. But the one deck being able to do that isn't really an issue, you know. And also like I think actually from that idea, I'm kind of thinking about a hot take I actually do have, where I do think in most cases a nation's play style being adhered to, not in a strict sense but in a loose sense, is usually like fine more often than it's not. Like I think a lot of Dark States decks being like glass cannons is completely fine. Like the kind of numbers that like Chaos and Alukia and Barra Magnus pump out, like they're so big, you should have to not be able to plus that much for that to be reasonable. Like you can't have it all, you know.
See, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that one, because I think my problem is I think a lot of those decks have the problem is that they spend so many resources to get those things as big as they are that they have to have enough recuperation. Otherwise, there's just zero reason to play the deck. Because like, I mean, Chaos, where you're building your numbers, but you have to throw 13 cards in the soul. And when most of your cards say soul charge 1, very seldomly soul charge 2, like, I mean, you have to use it like at minimum 13, well, not necessarily at minimum, but I would say probably on average 13 cards to put into soul, which is a little different because you have your ride line, so you have at least 3 cards guaranteed in there. So at least 10 cards you have to use to put something in there. So you're kind of, in a sense, negging 20 cards. So yes, you can recuperate quite a bit, but you have to have those effects to be able to do what you want with it. So it makes sense that the hand is there and those resources are there.
Yeah, I'm getting like tired of some of the designs though of like modern Vanguard decks where they're just like, yeah, they do a little bit of everything and they do it well enough that there's not a glaring weakness. We've seen this with like decks like Gandiva. Even like Varga has this thing where it draws a lot of cards, it retires your opponents, it like the only counterplay that was given to that deck was don't take damage, but that's just not plausible some of the time, especially in a deck package that does 4 to 5 attacks on the regular.
Yeah.
Just, and like Orphis now, like I understand Regis isn't like the best thing in the world, but that deck still, you know, draws a pretty reasonable number of cards, hits really hard for what it is actually has to commit to it. So the fact that it doesn't like shield well feels like the downside of playing a deck rather than a deck that just does everything.
Well, I mean, I agree. Like, I think what will always be an inherent weakness of Brandgate decks is that they can get a lot of bricky hands by having to keep set orders in hand or to like constantly recycle them in some way or the other. So like their biggest strength is deck thinning to get to those set orders, but that's the extent of it. Like getting them all into your hand is good, and like you got there, you can do what the deck wants you to do, but if you can't accelerate them in or out of your order zone well enough, you face a similar problem to like Darkseid's, where like you've spent a lot of resources setting up what you need to do, but then you don't really have many cards in your hand. Like you have more cards in your hand than like a Darkseid's deck would, but they can't like you can't guard with them or anything. So like I think that's perfectly fine. I think every nation has like their strengths and weaknesses, of course. So I think I kind of agree with what you're saying though, Jared, how like some decks just feel like they're designed without weaknesses, or like they shouldn't have one. I don't know.
They just keep designing decks and that just interact with every part of the game in a relatively good and strong way. I think Archetype's starting to get there as well, where it's like that deck, wow, now it hits hard, does multi-attacks, is consistent, counter charges, soul charges, has good shield value on a lot of its things. Like that's the reason why it's one of the best decks now.
Yeah. They made every deck. They had to make every deck playable in the current meta, which means that you have to do everything to balance out the current meta that we have.
Yeah, it's weird. Making every deck playable is fine, and I think they did it very well in decks like Rezile. Like that deck is very Keter. It's so Keter it hurts. Like it's doing what Keter does best and what Keter has always done best, which is generate advantage in some ways, usually just to board, but now it's dipping more into like also just raw hand card advantage kind of thing, and like that's fine. That's exactly what I feel like the nation should do on the whole. But what it suffers from is like, while Rezile can get like good numbers and stuff, it doesn't have like a guard restrict or like native crits or anything. It has like crits it can shuffle back into the deck or whatever. It's like a Liel too. Like it can do a lot of things. It can build a board. It can do this, that, and the other. But it doesn't really kill reliably or consistently enough to like close out a game against a more aggressive deck like Varga or what have you. And I think that's fine though. As much as like, you know, a deck can draw, I think a deck has to suffer in some aspect, you know.
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't mind decks doing a little bit of everything, because the thing that felt bad when first D came out, it's like if your deck just didn't draw, even if you had big power, you just like roll over and die. At least now you get to play into some aspects of the game where like, oh, my deck draws a little bit, so I get to live past turn 3. You know what I mean? So like, you still do what your deck does, and it's fine that they do a little bit of everything, and then some of them hard focus on specific things. Like Silhouette now gets crit on Vanguard, so it has bigger Vanguard pressure. Still draws a lot of cards, but the rear guards still swing kind of weak. You know?
Yeah. 100%. It is what it is. It's just, I think they're trying to keep everyone interested in all the decks, which is fun because then people can change and choose whatever they want and play towards whatever style of the game they like and not feel bad about playing a air quote bad like awful deck type thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's like, I don't know if it's like that much of a hot take, I guess, but I do think there is like a thing to be said about how the new Liel, because of how it's designed and the deck it's in, like it shouldn't. I think it would be almost a bit too much if it ever gets like a big guard restrict, like a turn-wide guard restrict, like Langmire has, or
even
like
just
restanders.
But how often have they printed they rarely print restanders. Like, look at Bob Saga, bro. That deck has been dying for a fucking restander for how long? Like, it's so rare they print either restanders or guard restrict for decks. They usually print something that gains advantage or gains a lot of power. Or does a combination of the two, unless the deck really, really needs help.
Give Bob a restand 2024.
Nah, give her rear
Make
guards
it
with crits
2025,
on
bro.
them.
We're done with 2024.
Give Bob rear guards with crits so you can keep that identity.
That might not be too bad. It could go like the Zorga route where it just has 3 attacks, but all of them are something you want to guard.
I think it would be incredibly mid. I feel like it's gotta have a restand. It needs just one restander.
I hate this
3
flavor
attacks.
I hate this flavor of standard where if you don't do 5 attacks or at minimum 4 with like big fuck off numbers,
Brother,
you
Vanguard
are
has
worthless.
always been like that. If you think that's a standard problem, that's a Vanguard problem. How many decks in G had 4 attacks? Like pretty much all of them.
Well, a lot of decks in G also had guard restricts.
Yeah, exactly.
Their best
Yeah,
strides
it's
did.
some combination of everything. My hot take is that standard is the best format that Vanguard's ever produced.
Oh yeah? Okay. There are a lot of people who really, really love premium and still think it's the better format just because LOL Overtrigger makes standard like a party game format or whatever. But I mean, I agree with you, but I wonder why you think that.
I feel like the way the game has been set up now and a lot of the decks that have come out are super interesting and innovative in different ways. I think G had its own problems with power creep that couldn't be fixed, where standard, like Persona Ride is a gimmick that, sure, it's a mechanic that kind of is bad inherently, I feel like. But other than that, every other item they've added, orders have been awesome. Energy has been an awesome mechanic added into the game, and every time they release something new, it actually gets you pretty excited for the game. Where like G, they would release a new Broken Stride for one deck because it's all stuck to clans, and you're like, man, that deck is gonna be really fucking strong. Ooh boy, that's great. Love that. At least now they can release better generic support.
That's fair.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I actually have to back that because I think the ride line is the greatest thing to ever happen to Vanguard.
Oh yeah, ride decks
yeah.
are so good.
I like ride decks. I do like the inherent like deck building thing of not having the ride line and having to like work through it. But I think it's so much better for the sake of like, I'm playing this guy, I'm playing Raziel, I'm playing Lascaria to always consistently have them as a part of the game.
People who think that ride decks are bad are inhaling so much copium of the old decks they liked to play. Like, the fact that you can play the deck that you wanted to play, and you get to play the deck you wanted to play because you ride it every single fucking game, is so much better than going, oh man, guess I'm riding the PG. Oh great, guess I'm riding this grade 2 that does nothing. Oh cool, now I get to ride this grade 3 that's not even my right card to stride into, and now I can't stride on the main stride because I don't have the right heart card. It's great.
Yeah, like
Yes,
even I say I like them, but I am playing I'm playing the Ride Fixer and I'm playing Shoujodoji that I'm trying to get into my grade 2 Shoujodoji in premium, which just feels really funny.
Yeah,
that
and if
I'm
you
trying
don't,
to build and the deck doesn't have a good
You're
turn
fucked.
2 if
like,
you
I
don't.
know, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's-
No, I do think the Ride deck is better, but I do sometimes enjoy not having it just as a deck building restriction.
I mean, just it feels bad when the entire game's aspect is getting to grade 3, and there's a chance that if you don't build your deck well enough to get to grade 3, the fact that you can brick getting to grade 3, that just felt so bad.
Or even if you had balanced ratios, it's just never guaranteed.
Yeah, it's never a guarantee.
G assist is never a fun thing.
Oh yeah.
No one
No.
has ever G-assisted and smiled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
No. It's,
But, okay, while we're on ride lines, I genuinely think we should just have locked ride lines. They have printed every deck with a set of 0 to 3
Hard
that they
disagree.
think that should exist. Alright. Do you want me to go through my points first on what?
Yeah,
I'll just say before you get too deep into it that I agree from a aesthetic and like deck identity standpoint, but as a whole, I think the experimentation that people have when they mess around with ride lines is like fine. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. It just there's a couple things that I don't like about it. One, you have to balance every ride line for every deck now. Like, look at how many decks have just said, I'm using Zorga's ride line instead of their own because it's just that good compared to all the others. And it feels so weird to just watch someone go Zorga, Leonore. From an aesthetic purpose, I don't like it. I don't like that they have to balance around every ride line and every card
But
being.
they don't.
They literally do. They have to make sure every ride.
It's crazy that they can have a ride line that says, if you are riding this specific card or this specific card is in your ride deck, like the Mordalion ride line that just got released, literally says, reveal Mordalion from your ride deck. Now gain effect to ride this card. So if they choose not to, they can make it so it doesn't have to be. If they want to make like a really good ride line, like the Mordalion ride line is fucking dope, right? Like it's really good. So they made it Mordalion exclusive, and they can do that with like any ride line they want. I love the ability to go, oh, this Alden ride line is generic. It's not broken, but it's pretty good, and my ride line is straight ass because they decided to just ash my ride line. Let me just shove the Alden ride line in here so that I can actually have something playable.
Yeah, I think 90% of
Awfully
ride
IO.
lines in Standard are very, very, very hard locked to their decks. Of course, you have like I think what bothers maybe me and Jared the most is like the really old ones, like Zorga, like Bob, that people run in like Varga or whatever. Like those fringe like Aroa stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
those are way older in Standard though. So I give it way more of a pass. I would kind of raise my eyebrow if there was something like Buku Insane that they just didn't think about from like a deck that's coming out like recently or something. That would kind of make me raise an eyebrow more. But
Yeah,
if
and
it's
the
like
other thing
a
is,
okay a ride line like the Vergilla one that I know people run in Varga, like I think that's completely fine. I would have an issue if there was a ride line that generic that did like even like something like truly dumb though.
yeah. And also, I don't like how scummy it feels sometimes when you show your opponent like Ava and then you go into Archite. I just think
Oh
that
no,
just
I love
feels,
it. I love it.
I
it's
think
good.
that just feels dishonest.
I mean,
Isn't that
so
half of a card game?
I'm kind of split here on this one.
Okay.
So, one is how I feel. One is what I think.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think, I'll start with that one, is I don't think they can lock every deck to their specific ride line, because then they're completely excluding the promo bosses from getting played.
Well, see,
Unless
that's
they
what-
come with a set to
See.
release ride lines for all of those.
The thing with that is, I actually think that'd be a cool thing of them is that they don't have a locked ride line, because I think those bosses are kind of boring as is, and that would give them something a little bit more flair and interesting to work with.
Well, and that's what they do now, and that's why I don't think, you can. And on top of that, excluding promo bosses aside, is there are cards that they just aren't great for ride lines. I mean, like, you and I know it best, Jared. The Chaos ride line sucks.
Oh yeah.
And the moment we can get a really good generic, Dark States ride line that just does better. I mean, like, shoot, even the Diabolos ride line I think is slightly better. But I mean, like, I don't think it's right to lock the decks just because it adds a creative aspect to the game, allows you to change things up. I feel like you shouldn't change the ride lines up, aesthetic wise, and it, you get locked. The decks look better when you kind of play towards what it wants to do. Like, I don't think the Overlord ride line is great. I mean, the Counterblast one to search for a grade 1, which allows you to search for PGs, I think is an okay card. I think Counterblast is a heavy cost, but it is what it is. Especially in a very Counterblast heavy deck. But that's fine. Grade 2, call itself to rearguard for another attacker is fine. Like changing to the Bob ride line could be better because it would allow me to deck the end 1 card and have less cards discarded from hand early. So there's a lot of things that could be better for a deck, but aesthetically I generally won't do that. But I just don't think it's something that we should restrict people on in a game that's all about being creative.
I will say, I think there is this. I'll just say I don't know if we'll ever agree on this, Jared, and that's okay. We're not trying to change others' minds here.
Yeah.
Just kind of a bounce an idea.
This is the hot take stream. I wasn't.
But I think the idea of flipping up a starter or going into a grade 1 or a grade 2 in your ride line of a deck you're not necessarily playing, but services the deck. I remember, way back in set 4 of Overdress, I played a Gravidia, and I played the grade 1 and grade 2 for Orphis, the Orphis ride line, because that's just what you did. It gave you a really good early game, and then you could set up for your late game or your mid to late game with the Gravidia herself, and you just go from there. And that was what you did. And I can understand why there is that sentiment of it could be dishonest or scummy or whatever. But to me, it's a aspect of the game that I think this game gets to have now in standard that it couldn't really have in the older formats, because what Britt was saying, you're not guaranteed to ride onto the same Vanguard every game. There's no your opponent's not playing a mind game by riding onto the grade 3 they don't want to be on when they have a better one.
That also says what clan they're playing.
Yeah. But it's in standard, it's is it weird to go from the Ava ride line to the Archetype one? Yeah, maybe they just don't have it in the mail yet or something. But they do the same thing, and maybe they like how Ava looks better, but they like how the playstyle of Archetype more, or something. I don't know. I think it's not too big of a deal.
And also, a lot of times you'll know. Because if it's Ava ride line and they just search 2 Archetype orders, you're damn.
Yeah,
I wonder what they're playing, and then they discard a monster, and you're
I know it's also a little salty, because I know the only times I've ever seen people mix the ride lines is on the already top tier decks with good ride lines to get a slightly better ride line, and it's just alright bro, you can have your cake and eat it too, I suppose.
Yeah. The stride decks make sense. Those are such an anomaly in Vanguard as is. Locking those to their ride lines does make sense, especially everyone runs the grade 1. It was really the grade 2s were changing, and it makes sense why they changed it for sure anyway, because the Shotojoji grade 2 just makes it infinitely better.
Busted ass grade 2.
Crazy
and they've
good.
made those ride lines not good for early rush, right?
Where, they do it on
the
purpose.
grade 1.
Yeah.
I run the grade 1 ride line for Alden and Minerva because I want to be able to rush someone turn grade 1.
Yeah.
But the stride decks are intentionally not supposed to be built for grade 2 game.
Yep.
So it makes
sense for
those. Yeah, but the rest of them, I think the deck creativity aspect of it is awesome, and I think it just generally facilitates in a game where 44 of your cards are decided, and you only get 6 slots in your deck to really, for the most part, 6 slots in your deck to actually build your deck however you want. Having the idea of changing your ride line, or being able to, I feel like is almost a must.
Yeah, I think it'll always be better for the game to give the player the option to be okay, I want to try the Alden ride line in Rezel or something, and they whiff on it too much, or they just don't think it's worth it, so they like to go back to the regular one. I think that process is totally fine, and it's good for players to be able to have that option.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
sure.
Trey.
All right, I have a couple.
Okay.
We'll start
we're
with
going
the one
at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll start with the one
Okay.
that I've already talked about on podcast before.
Okay.
More things need printed with triple drive. Like
Okay.
are so many decks and cards and things that specifically.
No, they got you covered. They got you covered, bro. Did you see Leo?
Yeah, Leal has it. We're fixed. We fixed the entire
It's
problem.
fixed.
Yeah.
It's done. It's done.
Fix
We
the
can stop
game.
talking
No.
about it. It's
No.
fine.
Yeah.
The game's no.
We see
Hold
it on
on,
one
hold on.
card, therefore.
Nope. It needs to be, in my opinion, if it is an effect that is a continuous plussing of additional drives. So like if it's always a drive +1 or something like that, multiple turns in a row, it should be triple drive. And I don't know. There's just something about the key wording of things that get around triple drive versus drive +1 at enough situations. It's just unlucky and bad. If it's a skill that is like a once per game, like Rezael, where he gets one extra drive once in the game, I think that's an effective skill. I think that makes sense because it really is a double drive with a drive +1. Whereas all these other decks that are drive +1 the entire game, it's just like that should be a triple drive.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
what prevented them from putting Orpheus Mask to be triple drive?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think there would have been like.
It
bad
would have
if
given
they
the
did.
deck at least a small weakness in its like already overloaded package.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't personally disagree. While I don't feel as strongly about it as you do, I do understand where you're coming from. I mean, like it makes sense. Like, it also just feels flashier to say, oh, I've got triple drive instead of saying I have drive +1. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like if you tell me you get drive +1 every turn, I just kind of want to punch you in the nose. Like, and I play decks
Oh
that
my
do it.
God.
I also want to punch myself in the nose, but like,
Yeah. You sitting there with your Elementaria in hand going, this mother.
motherfucker right here. Just want to. Yeah, no, I don't know. That one, pretty, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I think my only other one was, and this will be like a very mild take. I don't really know how we feel about it. I know maybe some people agree with me halfway here, but it's a couple things all rolled into one, and it's like I'm really tired of people being like, oh my god, you can't do it unless my opponent's grade 3 or greater, like, oh, curse text, calling it curse text at all. That drives me nuts. I get it. That was a thing we called it in V because they gave it to everything in early V to mid V, but like it doesn't matter. And also, what was it? Like how many qualifiers a card has on it to make sure it's used in its intended deck. Like, oh, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with a Rezael in its card name, do X. Like, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. I think what makes generic cards stand out more is that they are the cards that you can flex into decks, and the cards that are meant for individual decks, they get to be stronger than a generic card like ever could be because, you know, they can't be put into some other deck and abused in some way. Like, if every single Keter deck had the ability to run a card like Nilberis for Rezael, like the grade 2 that like goes into soul, draws a card, looks at top card of the deck. Like, if every Keter deck could have that, that's too much. That's way too much, in my opinion. Like, every Keter deck can get a Teeth-Fault. Fine, I don't care. That's not a big deal. But there are just some things that, like, it's totally fine if these things exist.
You could take the Raziel text off of Novia, and no one will run it still in any deck.
Actually, yeah. But that's because that effect is not better than a generic card. That's why it's never ran. Like, if it was at least comparable to like Teeth-Fault or something, there would be a discussion there. But, you know, yeah.
I agree with you. In a sense, and I don't disagree. I'm again kind of on the fence on this one.
Okay.
I tend to use the curse text aspect. I don't ever complain about it. I think everything that has it is there for a reason, like you said. But I more just use it as like an identifier.
Yeah.
Because like it's more like, you know, if someone asks what a skill does and you kind of tell them what the skill does, but you don't read it word for word, and they're like, "Oh, that's crazy," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it has the curse text, so like it's locked to having going second per se, or when your opponent's actually greater, that's when it actually enables that effect type thing." So it's more like I don't at least in my opinion, I don't use it as a complaining moment. It's more of just an explaining moment.
Okay, my issue with that statement is the fact that you have to say, oh, it has the curse text, so you can only do it if your opponent figures greater. Okay, why not just say it has the going second clause or something that actually explains what curse text is instead of saying curse
Going
text?
second clause is so many more words than curse text.
But
Going
okay,
second
if you have to
clause,
say
that's
if you
one
have to
whole more
explain
word
what the
and
curse text
4 more
is,
syllables, bro.
if you have to
But
explain
most
what
of-
it means, then
But most of the time, I don't use the curse text when I'm talking to someone who's a new player or
Right.
wouldn't understand it. I will use it in a conversation like in our group here, or people at our locals who are playing cards for a while and know what the curse text is. I've been around for that.
yes.
Like I said, it's just slang is what it is.
I'm
at
about
this
to say,
point.
curse text is just the slang we have for it now. It's the bed we lie into. If it's, I bet you, if we get more once per game skills, we're just gonna start calling them divine skills, whether they have that line of text on
We're
them or
already
not.
doing that. I remember when Dayusha was revealed, it's like, oh, he's kind of got a pseudo divine skill going on.
Yeah,
we
literally-
already started doing that,
See, I actually like
I
curse
literally, I
text.
said the exact same thing playing Dayusha.
Really?
In
The
our
day,
Okay.
Yeah,
the day before this podcast.
yeah, it's just the words we got, and
Yeah.
I like curse text, and I understand that the connotation of it is that it's bad because it's called curse text, but I like what they've done with a lot of curse text is that
Yeah.
they write the vanguards in a specific way where it's you get to do what your vanguard does, and then you get to do more if your opponent has grade 3.
Well, yeah, it's the decks that people complain about the most. It's not an insane deck or anything, but a Grayandra, the amount of things that it can do going first and how much power it can gain,
Yeah, they slapped
It's-
one curse text clause on there somewhere. I wouldn't have an issue with that deck.
They do.
No, it's on 2 rear guards that have the same effect, where
not?
they'll gain more power if the
Oh, right,
opponent.
it's on the least
I know.
important part.
I know, I understand, but what I'm saying is that's my issue has nothing to do with anything that you just said. My issue has to do with it being called curse text to begin with. I get it that it's what we're used to now. Okay, I understand, but I roll my eyes anytime somebody says it, because if you're gonna call it curse text, that the name has so much stigma behind it, as much as people might not think it does, and then you go on to say about how good it is that it's on this deck or this deck, but that's my issue with it is the word, not so much what it represents or what it is, because I like every instance of a going second clause in any deck. I think it's better for the game if decks have those and keep having those.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Okay. Good. I think I kind of thought people would push back more on how xenophobic some cards are, because I know that's also a big thing. If there are these different nations, why are all these cards have so many clauses about what deck they go in?
Oh no, I think those are completely
Hot
fine.
take. I want a 6th nation, 7th nation.
Okay.
You know what? Fair. I do
have-
think.
Mini.
No,
if you
stop
include
it.
Records of
No,
Ragnarok,
no,
Mike,
no.
Daydream.
Come on, dude. You can't do this to me. I thought you were cool. No.
We have
No.
11 nations technically.
All right,
technically.
buddy. All right, buddy.
We have them.
I'm
Other
looking
than
up
that-
on you. You're on your high horse right now, buddy. Can you get down?
You're on thin ice, bro. Just saying. But what
Just-
would what would a 7th nation look like to you? What do you think? What aesthetic do you think they haven't captured that a 7th nation?
Okay, hear me out. They just break off Stoicheia.
No,
into the 2
no,
nations
it's
that they were
already a thing.
previously.
It's already a thing.
No. Get Megalantica out of my zoo.
No. It's already a thing.
Yeah, honestly,
Oh my god.
a straight up animal nation would be kind of lit.
I love
Just
zoo,
animals?
and I dislike.
Yeah, just
I
animals. Not
dislike
furries. I don't want
Megalantica.
furries. Fuck the furries. But give me a literal zoo. You know what I mean?
The Brett's hot take. Fuck the furries.
Oh, I'll die on that hill. That's not a hot
but,
take.
But what is it? I dislike that Megalantica has such a different aesthetic to Zoo.
Give me a deck of alley cats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's hard because the Seventh Nation, any original aesthetic they could pull from could just be answered by any of the other ones. Like my first thought was like
other decks dip too, right?
But as a whole aesthetic of a nation, tough.
Yeah, like
No, but I mean like there's not that many animals right now in fucking Stoicheia, right?
you're hung
Not
up
that.
on
What? Okay, how many animal decks are there? Call it out right now. How many? Magnolia?
Magnolia?
Granfia?
Okay. Granfia?
Granfia doesn't count. I said no furries.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, dude, bro, what do you?
It's just a wolf.
Oh
Name a
my
second
God.
one. Name a second one. Come on. Name a second one. Come on. Fast.
Maelstrom is a dragon, technically, so
It's a
is
dragon. Yeah, it's a dragon, so it goes to Dragon Empire. Okay,
It's
next.
an animal.
It's a dragon, so it goes to Dragon Empire. I mean, they do have
He's
two
a
dragons. I
navy
guess.
dragon.
We do
He's
have some
water.
dragons.
I'm just saying, like, they mix
count as
shit all the
animals, we got
time,
Mushi
dude.
shit.
Like, things mix, like, non-stop. So, like, we've already splurged a little bit. Like, things mix one way or another. Like, there's robots in other nations. They're not rank gate exclusive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like, we can have a full animal nation and still have the one fucking animal deck that exists in Stoicheia.
I do think they need to make
Mythiarch.
more like animal. Okay, this is a
Oh
hot take.
boy, there's a
Okay.
second one. How long did it take you to think of that?
No,
What
I
did you say?
I got Mythiarch.
what I was gonna say is
Yeah.
I actually kind of despise how many versions of Vanguard bosses we get that are just hot guy / hot lady or big dragon. Most of them.
I'm here
That
for
is-
that.
I want more things that aren't
Wait.
just like
Wait,
that are just that framework. Like when
here
I
for
see
that in
like
what way?
Dragons?
like Orlogest, that card is cool as hell for just being a manticore. That is something we don't have like anywhere else on bosses. I remember seeing that when the startup decks and going guy, girl, guy, manticore, and thought that deck was
Animal Nation. And it's,
or just
and
more
it's
animal
red
decks.
and blue and green and yellow and purple, and we all sing Kumbaya, and it's
Yeah.
a rainbow nation, and we all have
Bro.
a good time.
Nah,
Bros
make it
Open
a
here.
purple nation because Dark States isn't. It's blue.
No,
If
no, we
they're
don't
gonna
need
make it a
purple,
rainbow
we need
nation. It's
purple.
just gonna be Vispo. Like,
It's okay. I was gonna say make it a white nation, but I don't think I'm allowed to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
All right. Okay. I guess this isn't really a hot take. I guess we're just going onto a tangent here. The only deck I want to see have an aesthetic representation of is what they got really close to with Orphis. Because he's like a cyber golem, okay? He's not like a dragon or he's not a whatever. But I want to see like a cyberoid boss. Like those fucking bulk Brantgate cards that are just like a futuristic looking dude or lady or whatever. Like those are so cool to me. And like think of the rear guards that Messiah has that aren't like other Messiahs. Like they're usually like cyber, like futuristic, like just like people, and I think that's a really cool aesthetic. I'm surprised there's no boss for it.
yeah, I 100% agree. There's the
Yeah.
the Cyberoid's one of those ones that needs a big one. Golems, like Dragon Empire, has so many random golems, and we only
That'd be
use
cool.
one
That
golem
would be cool.
in Gryandra.
Yeah.
That would be cool, actually.
We finally actually use a true golem. Battle Sisters, like we had that in G, and we had it in V, and now we just
Isn't
Don't,
Golem
I
trying
mean-
to find the one ring. Is that why it's not a deck?
Very
I mean,
cool, Brett.
fair.
Thank you.
But yes, I mean there's a bunch of like supporting aesthetics, which would be so cool to just have like a small, even like a promo boss here or there, like would be great. Like they don't have to be a mainstream deck.
I can't believe it took us this long to get a dinosaur boss, bro. Like what?
Yeah,
like,
I'm so happy.
Yeah, like I said, give us literally things that aren't hot anime boy or girl or dragon. That is like 90% of decks in standard right now.
yeah, where's the big gross bugs? Like we got Lascaria and
Got
Saraja
Mercy
and
King.
stuff, but
Nah, like, hey, we're getting insect bosses finally. It only took them a couple years to finally put insects in the Insect Nation.
All right.
Insect.
Who had another take? Who wanted to throw out?
I want Trey to put up the meme I put in here.
Oh, ignore it. I have one that it's gonna feel very targeted, and don't hate me for it. Shadow Army tokens should not be 15k.
Yeah, 100%.
They should be either 10k or 13k. 13k would be perfectly fine.
Not.
That's what I said.
Look,
It's gonna feel very targeted.
I am the meme of the guy who is like got his arms spread out over the person, but like I'm taking all like the arrows and stuff for him and stuff. Like,
And it's just Orpheus, your baby.
Yes.
well, like, okay, look, and I will always be the first person to say that if 15k tokens aren't what the deck should have with the current playstyle it has. Okay, back in the boomer days of Overdress, so like 2.5 years ago, not even that old. Like Orpheus saying Counterblast 2, make 3 tokens. All it has was 3 attacks. All it has was big numbers, and all it had was retire. Like it could retire the opponent's stuff, and it had big shield on a lot of rear guards. When that was all the deck did, those tokens being as big as they were necessary because those sufficient attackers made it so that you could keep a decent hand to just tank hits and out-resource your opponent. That's not what the deck does anymore. So I agree that it's just not necessary, and the numbers they put out are excessive. And there is no difference between like a 60k column of 2 Shadow Army tokens with like the set order and a Persona Right or whatever, and 50k. Like, there is no difference, but if they were just a little bit lower, it would be a bit more reasonable for some of the tankier decks to, you know, at least try to defend against them like they can't now sometimes. Like, so like I agree, but I don't know what to tell you, bro. I didn't put the 15000 on the card, okay?
Okay, honestly though, if we don't we don't update, we should just live with the sins of the past of all Vanguard. Just don't ban anything. Why not?
All right, maybe not that. That's a weird take. I
Yeah,
don't know about that one.
I'm saying that if we live in the past of these Shadow Army tokens being 15k, like how hard would it have them to have just put on Orpheus Mask, Shadow Soldier token?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree at all.
Like,
And it just has a line attack that says counts as a Shadow Army, so
It's like a 10k, or it's like a 10k, or maybe even like a 5k or something, but it can intercept or something instead of boost.
I was to say what they should have done is added a variety of Shadow Army tokens
I agree.
and had a grade 1 that's like a 10k booster, a grade 2 that's like a 20k, you know, or something like that. Like, that'd be fine, because first off, it would give you a little bit of shield, like, you know, board advantage for shield to get the intercepts, whatever. It's also 20k, so it's just kind of a tough thing to swing with. So if it's the only thing you can call, it's a 20k attack. Like, that would make sense, like, in combination. But the fact that you get a free 15k booster and a free 30k column,
I hate that part of the analysis. Okay, it is never free. It is always a CB, or you have to ditch orders, or you have to counterblast 1 and discard a card. Like, yes,
it's
Mask
a CB.
specifically makes that not as expensive, but it is still a cost.
I mean, like, I say free, but it's more of it's consistent. Like, you're guaranteed most likely to get them because you're going to be taking damage. So you're going to have counterblast. Unless someone just completely starves you of things, then you just have a soul blasted.
And you're also in the Bubble Mine Nation, so...
Correct. You only need 1 to make it work. But 30k is just when you're on grade 2 or grade 1 and you just call 2 of them and smack someone for 30k. That's like unguardable early. And that's not what the deck really is needed to do. Like, it just makes the early game so gross when you can't just throw a 5k shield down, where you have to spend, if they have 30k down and you're grade 2, you have to throw 2 triggers down to block it, or multiple cards at a time to do it. And that's fine once you actually get to grade 3 and you're doing all of everything that's there. But the fact that you can do that at grade 1, at grade 2, at grade 3, that's a little much. So the numbers of it, goofy. Yeah. I mean,
like, I don't know. I think if they kept its original playstyle, I think there would be no issue. Like if the whole point of the deck was to just be really tanky and make tokens that can take the place of its rear guards for it, fine, no problem here.
Yeah,
but when they print so many cards that say when they're retired by a Shadow Army token, you get to make another one, you know, because there are 2 cards that do that are really good. And, you know, like, yes, a 30k column going first is really good, but, like, that wouldn't be a problem if that's, like, all the deck did, and it was 3 attacks.
Yeah, it's annoying when, you know, most other people are getting, like, just to, you know, that 23k if they have, like, an actual grade, you know, 3 and a grade 1 booster or something like that. It's like all of that's 1 trigger to guard. Like you can throw down 1 card to guard. Whereas Shadow Army tokens, if you have a column of it, it's always 2 cards. Always 2 cards to guard or PG. Or over trigger. Or fronts. But either way, like it's just so much more difficult to guard outright, which is fine. Again, if it stayed. But it didn't. Now it's in a pain. They should have added a combination of things, I think. Changed up a little bit.
Okay.
But that's just a little thing. It's gonna feel targeted. It's not really meant to be, but
No, you're good.
they're Shadow Arms. They're just 15k grade 1s are crazy.
I'll get SP
New hot
ones just
take.
for you.
We gotta spice it up.
Huh?
Okay.
Vanguard should go up to grade 6 for some decks.
That'd be kind of cute.
I mean, we have 10 and 11.
Like you can go up from, you know, 3, 4, 5, and then you're 6. You know, you hit grade 6. You're trying to just get there to fucking win the game, but you have to survive 6 turns, which is like near impossible. That'd be pretty lit. Some decks go to grade 5, and then they're more mid-rangey.
Some decks,
Yeah,
their
why
ride
not?
decks are just bigger.
No, I think you should have to find them.
Oh, you should have fun.
Yeah,
I mean,
then
you're
we
essentially
we
just
mix
talking
the
about
worst
Garfield.
parts of G and the best part of D in one deck, and we say fish for it, bitch. And you take 12 spots of their deck for their grade 4, their grade 5, and their grade 6, and you just make them do it. But I think it'd be lit. It'd be so cool.
I kind of like the idea of a boss that the whole point of it is it will superior ride itself into a grade 4, and then that grade 4 will superior ride itself into a grade 5. Like, but it will like always pace itself in a way to where you can't like cheat into one or the other. You have to like get through 6 turns and then you get.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I just want a deck where you get through 6 turns
Okay,
and then you win.
I was about to say, I'm not on, like, actually adding more grades, but I could see a deck that's whole gimmick is that it goes up the grade chain more. That could be cool.
Yo, you hit grade 7. What about? Okay, hear me out. A deck you hit grade 8, you auto win the game. And the whole point of the deck isn't even to deal damage. It's solely to get the grade 8.
And they all
my
have the
hot
pause
take, we
camp.
need more you win the game cards.
I knew you were gonna say alternate mechanics. You sound like RPG.
Those are so silly.
No,
like
I
the
want
Keter,
grades.
The Keter
I want
girl, you know?
Yeah,
Peter
she's
Quinn.
okay. She's cool, but I feel like there has to be a way to still give your opponent damage. So like the
Yeah,
grade
I
8 one
agree.
should be like, hey, if you superior ride, deal your opponent 1 damage. You know what I mean? So you still have to deal damage at some point in some way.
I think just never.
Because the
tagging
one
your
thing I
opponent
hate
is
about
heavy,
yeah, it's your opponent just doesn't play the game, and I feel like it's annoying. Even though the deck is like kind of bad, it's just annoying to play. Like I played against Trey with it once, and I haven't played it since. And
Yeah.
it just, I did 1 damage, I think, the whole game. I
Yeah,
gave
he
1
did-
damage, like right at the
Every
end.
one CB.
Right at the end, won the game. And I was like, all right, that just feels terrible. Okay.
I'm sure I played
second,
Silhouette, too.
Second final
It's
hot
like-
take: give Minerva a new grade 4.
Okay, I don't think about necessarily Minerva specifically getting grade 4s, but I would be fine with them adding
My
more
hot
decks
take
that
is
have grade 4s.
specifically Minerva.
Well, then I disagree with your hot take, and I substituted for a new one that there should be more grade 4s added to the game.
I agree.
Like as
Okay,
a
hear me
entirety.
out.
I thought it
Hear
was
me
cool
out.
that Jejul got one.
Hear me out. The startup decks get grade 4s.
I'm here for that. I'm here for that, and I'm here for there being okay, call me crazy. They should add in a generic grade 4 for every nation that you can throw of like a Regalis piece that you could throw in as a one of, and it locks you to that for the rest of the game once you go into it. Like you can
That'd
only
be-
run it once in a deck, like nation specific.
It low key, and it has a divine skill, and that's its only skill.
I'm here for that. Just you get
Thoughts?
triple drive, you get one divine skill in every deck. Like
And then it's
imagine
just
like
a fucking vanilla.
running Maelstrom, and you're like, all right, I've done everything I can. I'm kind of out of resources. I'm out of counterblast. All right, I'm gonna run
And make it
the
15K.
15K, grade 4, get triple drive, and just kind of try to fight out the rest of the
Sick
game.
divine skill.
I wouldn't say necessarily sick. I think should be okay, good. Should be kind of what.
If it's
Maybe like
only okay, it will never be ran. It has to be really good.
I mean, it can't be broken, but it should be like on the better side of okay. Yeah, I can't
you
cheat
should
it.
be able to persona right and then hit it or anything. You have to like root straight right into it. I'd be down.
Somebody's got some background noise. I don't know if that's me or that's somebody.
Who's got the Hololive? It sounds like a VTuber.
It's not me. I don't hear it.
That's probably me. That's my bad.
How
I was
dare
watching a
you.
VTuber.
Okay.
I
Oh,
was
it's from
right.
his-
My
it's
VTuber senses
from
were
his-
going off.
It's from his stream. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. What I want to close this on, this episode on, is maybe the most contentious one, maybe not. I think decks that aren't maybe like specifically designed to counter certain types of decks, but have decks that but like do things that make them very matchup dependent are cool. And I really want more decks like those. Like Star Raja is a really great example. I understand how hard it can fuck over decks that restand their Vanguard to give it drive -1. I understand, and I get it. It doesn't feel good for the other player. And I understand that like Prison against decks that can't manage their resources very well or don't have enough to go around without like severely crippling themselves. Like I get it. Those aren't fun to play against. But I think they give interesting design space. And I think they're good for the game if they're at least showing up sometimes.
Like, silver bullets are going to exist in a card game by the card game existing in of itself.
Yeah.
You
Like,
know,
Angel
that-
Ladder is fine.
Yeah, like, guess what? Some cards are going to be better against other cards to a varying degree.
Angel Ladder arguably made Shiranui more interesting than it would have been otherwise in terms of deck building and play pattern. Like,
Yeah.
Is this a shots fired allowed stream?
I don't think we should name anybody specifically, but we can.
I wasn't gonna do any names. I was just gonna say one of your you're saying silver bullets are allowed. Like Stroy Raj taking a drive away from some decks is actually not a bad mechanic.
Yeah, I think it's totally fine.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's a...
Yeah, I was just yep. I was
Yep,
just
yep,
pointing
okay.
that out. I was just
Stop,
throwing that into the
stop.
mix.
Yep.
Yep.
No, I think that deck is fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It uses.
It does it goes through enough hoops to do its like unique and strong thing. How is
Yeah,
that
it
any worse
sacrifices-
than like just dying to Varga? Like,
Well, and it sacrifices things. Like it still sacrifices being able to have more guard because first off, you're running 8 grade 3 orders.
yeah,
You're running, 3 persona rides. So you're running 11 cards in the deck that just don't have shield, minimum, and that's not including if you're running any of the grade 3 support. So it sacrifices things and it doesn't draw a whole hell of a lot. It has enough searchability for the orders, but doesn't recuperate a whole bunch. And what it does is it uses a counterblast, and it already is going to run through those resources. So
And it has to play those orders in a specific order in and of themselves, and you can only do it going second, really, and like.
Yeah, I actually really love these weird control mechanics they're adding into Vanguard. I like that it's making the game more interactive because, man, is a lot of Vanguard watching your opponent shuffle, move cards around for half an hour, and then they go to their turn on some decks.
Like I think with every matchup, there is always in high competitive play of this game, there is always the constant thought about how you're going to efficiently plan out the whole game versus your opponent. depending on what they're playing and depending on what you're playing, I think that in most cases, that thought process isn't as complicated as some people may think it is. But the decks that do make it complicated, I think are really, really good for the game because it does give you like that kind of opportunity to think really hard about how you can overcome like a really hard matchup. Like I don't think it's a stretch to say that Blankmeyer was specifically designed to beat Rezael, or at least like try really hard to invalidate its divine skill. Like I don't think that's that much of a stretch, but I think that's completely okay. Well, if it like whether it is deliberate or not, I think that's perfectly fine, and I welcome the challenge. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. And it's the only deck that really targets one other specific deck. And it's hard to do that in this version of the game, I think, specifically because there's so much that you can adapt and change to get around things with generics. There's so many generics. I mean, Caterpile is a real thing, and it just allows you to do a lot of different things and work around that playability essentially. So it also, with how much decks are being released all the time, with how many things are updating to be back into meta versus not out of, getting out of meta type thing, it's hard to build new decks that specifically target one deck. So they just have to be kind of generically like Prison, or like even Blackmire is just okay. Like if your opponent's unlucky and can't draw a Persona, and you delete their Vanguard, you do exactly what you want. You deleted their shit, and now they have a tough turn. Then you get your turn back essentially. So counter picks aren't a bad thing, I think.
right, and like and it's not like matchups are inherently new to Vanguard and any stretch of the imagination. Like way back in G, even, it wasn't really much of a discussion until a deck like Chaos in Link Joker was a thing, because it really put a magnifying glass on like, oh, the deck can lock your rear guards, but it can never do anything to the Vanguard. So like any deck that can get another Vanguard swing or is very Vanguard centric in how it just plays, like, will always be an insanely good matchup into Link Joker. So it's like you sort of see that in standard with some decks, like maybe Narukami, like a Vermilion. Vermilion's not good into a deck like Lutetia or Minerva, or like any deck that can restand the Vanguard, because like, oh wow, you're binding my rear guards, that's crazy, I'm just gonna not care and swing at you twice with my Vanguard. Which I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think removing the circle should not be allowed, but like making it harder to use it with like cradle markers and stuff, or infinity eyes markers, I think those are really cool.
I wouldn't even mind to remove the circle mechanic.
They'd have to be very careful with it, I think.
Yeah,
Divine
it's
skill.
Specifically like locking
Sure.
is
Remove
the one that's
one column.
Sure, for like a turn.
Yeah, for a turn.
Yeah, I think sure, fine. If it's
Yeah,
like
if it's
something
like-
they can't infinitely do every turn, and then like you're fucking stalling your
Yeah.
opponent out of the game. Yeah,
I feel like we could do that with divine skills all day, where we go, okay, we don't agree that this should be on a thing.
However,
If it's a divine skill, we'll let it slide a little bit more.
Once
which I
per
think is-
game.
Yeah,
easy.
well, and,
Yeah.
and to be honest, there's a lot of counterplay in this game right now, I think, which I think is
Mhm.
super healthy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
every single card game ever is going to have counterplay. So, like, if you don't like counterplay, don't play card games.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you don't like, they played, you're playing a deck that only is good at blocking small attacks, and then they go all in on the Vanguard. Well, sorry.
it's
like-
so easy to think that this game is about just playing your own deck optimally, but
Playing generic other card game, my whole deck
Like-
is based around playing a tiny
What-
lot of
what
little
was
guys.
it?
Get
I
one card. Kill every little guy.
I remember I was playing Lascaria into Avantgarda, where, if people don't know, it says you can't Blitz Order as one of its cards. That deck says Blitz Order on it. I won those games because I played my deck in a completely different way.
and that's
I
cool.
I looked at the matchup, went, I have 7 blanks in my deck, and played to the fact that I had 7 blanks in the deck.
that's
I
so
won
sick.
the match.
I love moments like those. where it feels hopeless because of what starter they flip up, but then you pull out the win anyway. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, like I started that match very hopeless in game 1 and got obliterated, and then I reframed in game 2 and went, right, I can't use these. Throw them away. Just, they are not needed.
Yep.
But yeah, counterplay's gonna exist.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Anybody got any closing thoughts on anything we've said today?
Give me my grade 11.
Give me my grade 11.
It's right there, you can play it.
Griffagilla, hold on, where?
Yeah, but I need all the grades before that first.
Give us our animals. That's the
Up
big
to
takeaway.
critical.
Dude, if they actually made like a really cool cat deck, I would play the shit out of that. That'd be so lit.
I got Felke
Even,
performer.
Like a dog deck would be kind of okay.
We got
Ferret.
freaking what?
Okay,
I mean, yeah, we
Yeah!
got Sargon, man. Like, listen.
No! Just do what
I
they
get
did in V with the ninja weasels, but make that a deck.
Oh
they
my
had
god,
those
bro.
ninja weasels. The stealth
Was it?
Give me
okay.
my Genesis crit weasel back. That puts itself back into the deck
I didn't know you had
as
a
an
card
act
like that.
ability. Yeah.
Silly. Yo,
Stop
where's
thinking
my
about
where's my
putting
where's
new
my
mechanics here?
where's my like friendly broccoli like all my vegetables deck? Where's that?
Yeah, come
Yeah,
on. Can we
no,
introduce,
lit.
Can we
Food
introduce
deck?
introduce keywords that let you play cross nation?
We've got like the
Give me-
orange, we've got the broccoli, we've got shaky peanuts. Like, bro,
Give
where-
me a pizza deck, and it's an arms deck, and you get one topping on each side.
Oh
the
my,
whole
no, no,
Vanguard
no.
circle is a pizza.
No.
And you
No,
get
no, no.
toppings on your
Your
pizza.
entire board is
Yeah,
a pizza.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can
yeah,
get the
but you need
toppings across
arms
to
too. So
different
you can get up
slices.
to, you can get seven toppings on your pizza.
Okay, but here-
and once
Oh,
you
hear me
become a
out.
supreme,
Cooking,
you get
literally.
8 drive checks. I'm
Alright,
just
we're-
saying.
I think we've lost the
8
sauce.
drive
for this one.
checks.
All right, so thanks for joining us for this episode of V Road. If you listen to the end, we appreciate it. And if you like this kind of content, be sure to like the video and subscribe to keep up with us for all the wacky content we come up with. But until the next one, I was Cole.
I was Trey.
I was Jared.
Don't buy Cardfight Vanguard Days 2. It's a scam. I was Saluk.
And we'll see y'all in the next one.